wir hatten eine Klassenfahrt nach Berlin. Und wir saßen in einem Abteil zusammen.
We were on a school trip in Berlin and sitting in a railway carriage with a family who had a son my age. He had a Walkman. I'd never put anything like it on my ears until then, and had never really listened to stereo. At that time, mono was still very common. I put these two orange foam rubber pads on my ears, and Kraftwerk was playing. That sound was an incisive experience. I had never had that before. It really fascinated me. My name is Norman Friedenberger. I'm a product owner at Porsche Digital and head of the Soundtrack My Life project.
Das Thema Sound hat ja bei Porsche eine
The topic of sound has a huge tradition within Porsche. Soundtrack My Life fits perfectly with Porsche because it creates a sound experience in the interior that is emotive. And that's why it's a topic for Porsche.
Natürlich auch, und damit ist es für Porsche ein Thema.
I started taking extended road trips in the US in the early 2000s. To put a soundtrack to this experience of driving around with music that actually helps to immerse and emotionalize you into the scenery. If only that could be done automatically. That was actually the idea for Soundtrack My Life. In my vision, the concept had a certain sound aesthetic that I wanted to make available to the driver, listener, user. I became aware of a man in LA, Boris Salchow, who had a similar approach to developing such a system, but from a completely different point of view. He was in traffic jams a lot and never really found the right music for such a situation, which is why he said, I need something that's based on what I experience here.
Hi, my name is Boris Salchow, and I have developed the adaptive music software framework that is at the core of Soundtrack My Life.
The idea of transferring Soundtrack My Life to the car was actually aimed precisely at embedding this adaptivity and personalized experience in a driving situation. We take data like speed and acceleration. Those are essential aspects that serve to personalize what comes to my ear in such a way that I have the impression that I'm the composer of my own musical material. It's a really interesting and new thing that hasn't been done before.
I was extremely inspired by the adaptive music system because it has the ability to synchronize between the motions and the music.
The Porsche driver gets into his or her car and starts a soundtrack that they feel is appropriate for the situation. As soon as they start to accelerate, they'll notice that individual sounds start to play and develop musical patterns and harmonies that become more and more complex. The complexity of what comes to the ear is one-to-one dependent on how they drive, how fast they drive, and how hard they accelerate and brake. You have to think of it like this. This is a composition that exists in a great many individual parts. But the way these individual parts are brought together and mixed, and how they reach my ears, and in what chronological order, that's exactly the point where Soundtrack My Life and the algorithms ensure that the musical experience is always a new one. That gives a completely different perspective on what I'm listening to.
Das macht's für uns so attraktiv.
That's what makes it so attractive for us, to use this as a styling element in the vehicle, so to speak.
Da sind wir jetzt auch gerade.
We are now in the process of actually testing this physically in the vehicle and creating an overall experience.
Erzeugen damit ein Gesamterlebnis.